Hey guys, Mr. Happy here, and I just wanted to do this video because it's been a while since I've really done a Final Fantasy XIV video. Yes, it is still the MMO that I am playing for the most part. It is still my MMO of choice, and don't worry, as patches come out, I will still be doing videos and guides for all that. But in all honesty, it's just been a dry time, you know, in between patches 2.1 and 2.2. We've pretty much only heard about the PlayStation 4 version. We've gotten a little teaser about the live letter, which I've already done a live letter recap on. But because of this PlayStation 4 media tour they've been doing, we've actually been getting a lot of information lately, and some of that I'd like to speak my my opinions on a little bit, my thoughts on a little bit. Specifically, an interview that was done with Gamerescape.com. If those of you who don't know who they are, they have actually been one of the websites that I've always used ever since the game was back in 1.0 even. I remember visiting Gamerescape very regularly to keep up to date with certain things, and especially because they do tours with, they do interviews, I should say. They've done interviews with Yoshi-P, they've done interviews back with 1.0, they've done them for 2.0, and they actually had one of the best, it was a really short interview, one of the best interviews I've ever read when it comes to the questions that people can have, the questions people have the opportunity to ask Yoshi-P versus the questions that Yoshi-P usually ends up answering. Usually Yoshi-P ends up getting asked the same generic questions, most of the live letters, things that we expect, you know, what kind of mechanics will there be? Obviously, we won't find out. He's not going to tell us all the mechanics that Leviathan's going to have. You know, is there going to be any lore? Well, of course there's going to be lore behind it. It's not going to be, you know, it's not going to just be, oh, by the way, this is here. We're not going to say anything about it, but it's here. He always gives reasons. Everything in the game that usually makes sense, people still ask the questions about. So a lot of the time, the really juicy questions, the things we really want to get Yoshi-P to speak on, it's usually pretty hard to get him to speak on them, unless it's a very urgent matter in which he usually takes to the forums. However, Gamerescape managed to get a very good interview with them. It was only 4 questions long, but each question is something I would like to speak my mind on. Now, the first one is, because this was the PlayStation 4 media tour, of course, they were trying out the PlayStation 4 version, and after seeing the PlayStation 4 tour, seeing some of the screenshots they've showed us, hearing what people are saying, and of course, seeing the PlayStation 4 trailer, I'm very excited about it. But with the PlayStation 4 version coming out, that raises one very important question, one that Gamerescape was not afraid to ask. What's going on with DirectX 11? As some of you know, well, as most of you probably know, I'm a PC player. Nothing against PlayStation 3, and especially nothing against PlayStation 4, because the system looks fantastic in the screenshots they've shown, and in the reviews people have been posting, and the videos that have been coming out during the media tour. It looks amazing, and definitely any one of you out there looking to go from the PS3 to the PS4 version, look it up. But as a PC player, obviously, I'm not going to be getting the PlayStation 4 version. I don't even have a PlayStation 4 yet, as a matter of fact. I'm a bit behind on the new console hype. But DirectX 11 is basically supposed to be what the PlayStation 4 is to the PlayStation 3 in terms of graphics. It's going to enhance the gaming experience for those people who have computers who can handle the DirectX 11 patch. And my computer, while may not be able to handle it while I'm recording and live streaming, when I'm just playing on my own, it can definitely handle DirectX 11. So they asked Yoshi-P, when's it coming? Yoshi-P had a very interesting answer. They said because they're working on the 64-bit version for the PlayStation 4, Windows 64-bit is actually done for the DirectX 11. However, they do say that there are some things holding them back, specifically the launch in China and the work they're already putting down towards an expansion pack, which is something we've known. He's mentioned it before, that they're already storyboarding for the expansion pack. We have already heard this from other sources. However, unfortunately in this note, it says that the DirectX 11 version is basically nowhere close to being done, or nowhere close to at least release. They said that after China, they're going to begin work on the expansion pack. Then they believe they will have time to implement it. So basically, it's release in China this summer, so June, July-ish. Then they begin work on the expansion pack, and then DirectX 11. So we may not even see DirectX 11 for Final Fantasy XIV in the year of 2014. This is a stark contrast to what we were originally told, that they expected the DX11 and the PlayStation 4 versions to launch. Now, of course, things change, and I'm not going to ride them for it, but it's just another unfortunate thing that we had to find out. And in my opinion, they need to stop putting... I very much now appreciate when they don't put deadlines on things, because it definitely raises player and consumer expectations. You know, when you said we were expecting it to be done along the PlayStation 4 version, and now you're saying nowhere near when the PlayStation 4 version is being launched is the DirectX 11 version going to be coming out. It's definitely a bit of a downer. You know, DirectX 11, definitely not something I'm super excited for, but I know a lot of people are, and it's definitely something that I would like to see implemented sooner rather than later. I understand it takes a lot of work to get something like this out, but in my opinion, they shouldn't have ever given us a thing, we expect it to be around this time. If you have no idea, just say, we're not sure, we're working on it. That's the best you can do. Honestly, it's the best answer that I'll accept. But anyway, moving on from that, like I said, he did mention an expansion pack, which was very, very, very interesting. He didn't say, oh, this is going to be in the expansion pack, we got new jobs planned. He didn't do anything like that, of course. It's way too early. The game has only been out for 6 months, and I'm not expecting an expansion pack until summer of 2015. Those are my expectations. However, they do have a target date on it. They said they won't reveal it, but they did tell us that the expansion will have, quote-unquote, as in terms of how much content you can expect, we're going into it with the expectation, again, I like this wording much more, that the expansion pack will have as much content as when we launched Final Fantasy XIV with A Realm Reborn. So it is definitely a large scale. For those of you who need that put into perspective, we had the Relic Quest, which basically meant they had, 14 new dungeons altogether, whether it be from, level 1 to 50. In this case, I can't imagine they'd be adding 14 new dungeons. There's an entire possibility that they would, though, that from 50 to, I guess, I'm going to assume there's a level cap increase, again, just speculating right here, 55, that there would be maybe 14 new dungeons, maybe 2 dungeons for 50 to 51, 51 to 52, 52 to, do 10 dungeons from 50 to 55, and then have a handful of dungeons ready for 55 itself for people to grind on for tomestones or whatever they end up calling it by that time. Then you had 3 primals. You had, each of them had an involvement in the storyline. Basically, you had an easy mode, which was the storyline one, and you had the hard mode, which was the one that you would experience at max level. I expect that they'll stop doing the easy mode primals and stick primarily to max level primal fights, such as basically doing a hard mode, which has become the new story mode at 55, which would be the case of the expansion, and then doing the extreme mode, which is additional content. I expect that we can expect, because easy mode, hard mode is 2 fights, that we could expect hard mode and extreme mode to be considered equal in terms of the content that they would put in a new expansion. So in total, that's 6 primal fights if you include the 2 difficulties at 3 primals, assuming we're still doing primals by that point in the game. That's a very long way away. On top of that, we had 5 turns of the Binding Coil of Bahamut and 2 max level dungeons. So put that into perspective, you had 2 max level dungeons, 2 fights that were part of a relic quest, which really had no other purpose. We had 5 turns, technically 4 because turn 3 really doesn't count, and then 6 total primal fights. In reality, it is a pretty big amount of content, but I would hope that we could see something a little bit more. We can also expect, based on this, 2 new jobs because, well, the original game launched with 2 new jobs, Scholar and Summoner. Now, is that for sure? No. I actually think there will be more jobs and that people are going to want to level them up from 1 to the max level. And honestly, if they could launch an expansion with how much content the game came out with initially, I would be quite pleased. But of course, there's a lot of things that were missing from the initial launch of the game that we were expecting, such as the Crystal Tower and housing and PvP. These were all things that people were expecting. Have they gone into it with the expectation that they will get out as much as 2.0 and 2.1, which was basically everything that was initially planned for the game's initial release, or are they going to go into it with more of the expectations of just 2.0? If they go into it with the expectations of 2.1, I would be simply amazed. That would be an insane amount of content to launch an expansion with, but worthy of an expansion purchase. So I think they really need to look into mastering the amount of 2.1 content over the amount of 2.0 content. And he even says, the devs said they haven't even been getting sleep to get this content out, and everyone is like, are we really going to make all this content? I hope so, because content is what us as MMO players really enjoy. Some of us decide to go through it slowly and really enjoy it. Some of us, more like myself when I actually say some of us, like to speed through it and then relax and play other games. We really like to power through it. Some of us like to say afterwards there's no content, and some of us like to say no, we just went through it really fast. Doesn't matter who, but that's the whole point of MMOs. Content, content, content. So it was very nice to see that they have that kind of dedication towards getting out that kind of content for an expansion pack. Now the third question, another very interesting one. There was just a flash in my room that scared me, so I'm sorry if I'm breathing a little bit heavily. But the next thing was even more interesting. Now, there's been a lot of actually questions about this. If you look at some of the PS4 Media Tours videos and interviews, a lot of people are asking about parsers now. Some of you may know that GMs are now giving out warnings and things like that for people, especially streamers, who have parsers on their stream. It's not something that was uncommon before. In fact, all the way up until halfway through 2.1, it was a very common occurrence for streamers to just straight up have the DPS numbers on the screen while they're doing content such as the Binding Coil, Crystal Tower, Extreme Mode Primals, Hard Mode Primals, really didn't matter. So Yoshi-P made an official statement, and he's actually made multiple official statements across the PS4 Media Tour, but they're all pretty much along the same lines. It is not allowed, but I understand that people want to enhance their gaming experience. He even goes as far as to say, however, I too am a hardcore PC gamer, so I understand that there are a lot of plugins and add-ons available to many games. So as a PC gamer, all I can really say is, please don't get caught. Basically, he said, sure, you technically can, and there's no way we'll find out, but if you go telling people, we will find out. That is not something you expect the lead developer of a game to say. But for him to come out and be honest and say, I'm a PC gamer, I know those are things that you really want to be able to do, really basic functions with information. So just don't get caught. Like, what developer has ever come out and said, just guys, just hush hush, okay? If you tell me, I'm gonna have to ban you. If you don't tell me, who's to know? That's really what he said. And honestly, I'm impressed. I'm glad that he's saying that. However, I was hoping for more of a comment on, while he's on the topic of parsers and add-ons, when we're going to be getting the API that is actually going to let us develop these add-ons. I can already imagine a ton of add-ons I would love to use if they existed through the developers API that I'm expecting Square Enix will release sometime in the next few months. They originally gave us a 6-month time frame on that. 6 months would be about 2.2 time, a little bit beforehand, and we still have no word on it. We really need to get word on this next live letter. So definitely be sure, those of you who are waiting for it, ask about it on the next live letter, please. I would love to have a clock for the internal global cooldown on dots. There's a 3-second clock. I would love to be able to utilize that clock to maximize DPS. That would be a great add-on I would love somebody to make. Regular DPS and healing add-ons. Sure, it creates EP in some, but I'm somebody who likes to use information to come out with positive things, like how can you increase this? What was your uptime on this spell? What was your uptime on that spell? There are just so many things that you can look at and sort of understand really how you can improve your own, how you can improve yourself as a player by looking at statistics. I'm very much into that, and I feel like I will become a better player if they release these sort of things. I won't be using it to rub it in people's faces. I'll be using it to improve my own experience. Sure, some people won't use it for that, but I just feel like the API needs to be mentioned very, very soon. And the last question, great question. Gamerescape, thank you for asking this question. One feature that many players are looking forward to is the Vanity system, another thing that we just have very little information about. Also known as the Glamour system, for those of you who don't know. He asked them, describe how it works. Will crafters be needed? Are there any fees? He said, fees, not going to be a high fee. But here's how it works. You get an item called a Glamour Prism that works a lot like a carbonized matter. Basically, there are different Glamour Prisms for different level ranges. You use that Glamour Prism basically to change the appearance of your gear to look like another piece of gear. So he then goes on to say that crafters factor into this as they are the ones who make the crystals, and they will bring the Glamour Prisms to the market. So on the surface, that immediately looks like, oh my god, they're giving crafters something useful to do, because a lot of us know crafters, a little bit underwhelming so far in Final Fantasy XIV. However, he does go to say they're very easy to make, so don't expect to go get rich off of Glamour Prisms unless you end up being the first one to do it and nobody else tries to butt in on your market, which I wouldn't count on that based on the way the Final Fantasy XIV market works. So basically, Glamour Prisms, just like carbonized matter, they have level ranges attached to them. Player uses them, makes one piece that they're wearing mirror the appearance of another piece, and they're easy to make and they're very easy to obtain because of that. So really doesn't too much. I like it because it gets crafters a little bit more involved, and it means that leveling your own crafter means making your own glamour crystals. Doesn't matter what crafter you level at this point, as long as you have one at 50, I'm assuming you'll be able to make your own glamour crystals. Now, is that a fact? No. For all we know, you could have to have a leather-working Glamour Prism, and they haven't told us that, or a smithing one, or a blacksmithing one. They haven't given us that kind of detail yet. Maybe it's somehow tied to the repair information on gear. We don't know yet. But this was a nice little bit of information to find out about the level ranges, to find out about how crafters are going to be involved with them, the difficulty of them, so how they're going to affect the market. In my opinion, just another item that's going to be flooded in the market, going to be very common, easy to obtain for a very low cost, and not really going to be game-changing for anybody, but I have a feeling at some point it'll be so cheap that less people will make it. I feel like the market on these is going to fluctuate very, very often. There's going to be a lot of them. They're going to be very cheap. People are going to say, I'm not making money, stop making them. People who are still making them are going to raise the prices a little bit. More people are going to say, oh, they went up in price, I'll make them again. And there you go. But those are my thoughts on the Gamerescape one. There have been so many other interviews and stuff. They've been around the world. You know, they've been in California. They've been in Europe. They've been in other places, Japan. They've been all over the place. And of course, the next live letter in March is going to be taking place from another live event. I don't remember the name of the city because my memory slips a little bit sometimes. But regardless, I was happy, with this interview. I'm happy with the information. I'm very happy with what I've been seeing at the PlayStation 4 version. Very happy to see there's already work being put into the expansion, how much content we can expect from it, but that's in the very far future. We need to know more about what's coming soon. So hopefully, with the live letter coming in just another 3 weeks approximately from this time, I'm assuming first week of March. That is pretty much when we were told early March. So first, second week of March is what I'm expecting it, with patch 2.2 dropping at the end of March. Those are my predictions. Hopefully they come true. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you have some opinions of your own. Be sure to drop them in the comments below, as well as drop me a like and a subscribe. I know there's a one I'm missing. Oh, that's right. Share this. And also, if you want to read the original interview, only 4 questions long, so it's a quick read, head on over to the link in the description below, the Gamerescape.com link, PS4 Media Tour interview with Naoki Yoshida. I'm sure somebody will tell me I pronounced that wrong, just like everything else I pronounce wrong because I'm American. Well, what are you going to do about it? Also, be sure to follow me on this channel. You know, you get a lot of Final Fantasy information, and whenever new patches come out, you could be the first one to get pretty much all the guides for everything that you're going to be attempting in Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn. Of course, feel free to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Doing those things helps me keep doing what I do. So if you do those things, if you like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and watch my live stream, you are helping support me to keep making guides for you, keep making informational videos for you, so I would really appreciate that. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.